Neither of the events that occurred on that date were triggered by a collision.
Could you read Mr. Proctor's 2 comments?
She waffled him.
I am put on the stand in a murder trial. I don't know why I'm here. I have no connection to this case.
Those wounds were inflicted as the result of a dog attack.
What's different about this photo, sir?
That taillight is completely smashed out.
Did you see a 6'1", 216-pound man lying on that lawn?
No.
What do you see?
So I see John giving Karen a kiss on the forehead.
Who will defendant Karen Reed's team call next? Court picks up in about an hour. Our legal eagles are weighing in. And Sean Diddy Combs scolded in the courtroom. The judge threatening to remove the rapper for interacting with the jurors. So is Diddy trying to manipulate them? Also this hour, the deadly date murder trial now in a verdict watch. And this morning, we're remembering the victim who's at the center of this case, 19-year-old Sade Robinson. Plus, counselor cult mom is back at it again with another opening statement, this time getting an objection for citing the Bible. We're analyzing Lori the lawyer and her attempted murder trial. It's all coming up next for you right here on Opening Statements. Good Friday morning to you, my friends. Welcome to Opening Statements. I'm Julie Grant. Before we hit the weekend, we got a great show to hit for you this morning. Grab that cup of coffee or tea, whatever you like. It's time for my opening statement. If conspiracy is in the Bible, is it a crime? Where was cult mom going with that in her opening statement? She told the jury the trial is about an alleged conspiracy between her and her brother. The allegation is that they conspired together to murder Brandon Boudreaux. Thank goodness somebody was a bad shot, and Brandon lived to testify in this case. Cult mom kicked off her open talking about how the word conspiracy is an ancient word that appears in the Bible many times. She gave the example of Judas conspiring against Jesus. And then the prosecutor objected. I wouldn't have. I would have let her go on. And then make sure I would throw it back at her in closing arguments and mention how she started the trial talking about a traitor. Judas was a traitor. He betrayed someone who loved him. Sound familiar? That sounds like a repeating event in cult mom's life. Gee, let's see. First, there was her husband, Charles Vallow. Then she betrayed her own children, J.J. Vallow and Tylee Ryan. 3 huge betrayals right there. Was the next relative going to be Brandon Boudreaux? That's the allegation. And that's why I would have let cult mom just talk all about Judas and conspiracy. And for the record, I think her religious fanatic act is a farce. She is so rotten, Judas probably wants his name kept out of her mouth. I expect this trial to go as well as her last one did. And I think there's always a chance that cult mom will take the stand, because at this point, she has nothing left to lose. She has already lost everything that matters most in life. That's my opening statement, my friends. Let me know if you like it. Right now, I want to give you your daily docket.
What does it look like Sade is doing right now?
It looks like she is taking a picture, because you can see her phone and then you can see the red on the back of her phone.
All right, I'll back it up and zoom just briefly. So if someone had indicated that she had taken a Snapchat playing beer pong at Duke's, would this seem to suggest that that did happen?
Correct.
All right, so we are in a verdict watch in the deadly date murder trial for Maxwell Anderson. This guy's accused of murdering and dismembering 19-year-old Sade Robinson. In New York, we've got testimony resuming in Diddy's federal sex trafficking trial. Court starts back up at 9 a.m. Eastern. And in Massachusetts, we've got defendant Karen Reed's defense team resuming its case at 9 a.m. This was after court was dark on Thursday due to extreme heat. Now, big question is, who will the defense team call next? Karen Reed told reporters that this defense would be robust. That was the word she used. They have 90 witnesses on their list. And she told reporters earlier this week that they plan to call their last witness on Tuesday. So we have yet to see the defense's crash reconstruction experts from ARCCA take the stand. You know, big controversy there with that. And I'm sure you remember them from the first trial. In the first trial, their testimony was excellent.
The taillight would make contact with a person holding a glass. Would that replicate what you did in terms of your firing a glass into the taillight? In other words, are they apples and apples?
No, I don't think it would be the same.
In your expert opinion, based on all your testing, is the damage to the taillight that you saw consistent with striking a human head?
No.
In your expert opinion, is the damage to the taillight consistent with striking a human arm?
No.
And what everybody didn't know at the first trial was that they were hired, paid experts by the defense. Yes, it is true that the federal government consulted them when they opened up their own inquiry that yielded nothing and found no corruption with the Karen Reed case. So the defense team hired them to be their own experts. Nothing wrong with that. But the problem was they didn't disclose it. The judge found that they deliberately misled the court, the jury, everybody watching this trial. And Hank Brennan knows all about that. And we know that the cross-examination of these guys is pretty intense in one of those pretrial hearings we saw recently. So what's it going to be like in round 2 with those ARCCA experts? They were great witnesses in round 1, but round 2, the Commonwealth is going to bring out what they did with the defense team, the communications that were not disclosed, the payment that was not disclosed. Let's talk about that. Let's bring in 2 excellent attorneys, both of them former prosecutors, now both in the private sector, Joe Tamburino and David Bruno. Good morning to you both. All right, how is ARCCA gonna go this time around? Joe Tamburino, what do you say?
Well, good morning, Julie and David. Thanks for having me on. You're going to have to wear a butcher's apron because the bloodbath is going to be enormous. I mean, Brennan's going to go at them because the bottom line with trying to decimate an expert on the stand is to show that they're completely biased. They're not someone who's in the middle of the road. They're not impartial. They have an axe to grind, or they're getting something for this other than just being paid, because experts do get paid. But in this case, it was some type of deceit. They didn't disclose all this information. They were chastised by the judge. I mean, this is bad stuff. So I think Brennan's just going to totally tear them apart.
Oh, yeah, I agree, Joe. We have a clip of a little sampling of Brennan on cross when there was the voir dire that the judge allowed recently. Of course, this is a pretrial hearing for context. Take a look.
You remember sitting down and deciding intentionally you were going to delete over 100 texts. Where did that decision happen?
I have no idea, sir.
You can't remember deleting over 100 texts where you were?
I just said I delete text routinely. You're asking me to specifically give you a location and a time when I deleted those? I don't recall that.
Oh, boy. He was the expert that online on Twitter last time, people were calling him Crash Daddy. That was a nickname that kind of was circulating. I'm not sure who originated it, but he was just so smooth and so engaging and well-spoken, all of that. And now we know that he was communicating with Alan Jackson on the Signal app, the app that allows the messages to be totally encrypted so that nobody can get them. And Brennan is able to note all the other deleted messages. Why on earth would an expert delete messages with an attorney? David Bruno, how often do you see the Signal app coming up with lawyers using it with their witnesses in your practice?
Hey, look, like Homeland Security, too, recently, right? We saw that in the federal government. With that being said, this is such an important witness for Karen Reed. And it's unfortunate for the defense that they have to deal with this interference on probably the most critical witness that they could call. But I had a problem in the first trial, honestly, with keeping the jury from the fact that the Department of Justice initially consulted with them. I thought that was really, really important. And I wonder, at some point, does the prosecutor open the door to that with these attacks on bias? because I think that does soften the blow a little bit. Now, again, they were prohibited from getting into that consultation in the first trial. They're trying to get that out. And if I were the defense, I would be knocking on that, saying the door has been open. They should know that not only have we paid them, and we have all these bias acts and allegations against us, but the federal government brought them in first. I just wonder if they're going to go that route. That's how I would go, because this is such an important witness for Reed.
David, I'm so glad you brought that up. Let's play that out. Let's analyze that. So let's say the defense wants the jury to know that. Then how far does it go, Joe Tamburino? Then does the jury have a right to know that the investigation yielded nothing, no corruption, nothing that was improper, no frame job like they've alleged, nothing? Then does the jury...
No, you're not going to be able to go that far. It's a completely collateral matter. I think David's right. That's the way to go for the defense, is to try to get the stamp of approval by the federal government in front of the jury. But in terms of getting into the meat and potatoes of that, there's no way that Judge Cannoni's going to let them do that. I wouldn't either as a judge. But even if the defense gets all of that out, as they say since Watergate, it's not the crime, it's the cover-up. So even if the defense gets their way and gets that good piece of evidence that, boy, the federal government really liked these guys, they approved of them, still you have the cover-up, and that's what always gets you.
Yeah, a great point, Joe. I have another clip for you both here. This is from, I believe his first name is Daniel Wolf from ARCCA. Let's take a look.
Were you ever provided with a video of the defendant backing out of a garage and making contact with Mr. O'Keefe's vehicle in his driveway at about 5:07 in the morning on January 29th?
No.
Now, as far as from your review and your testing and everything that you did in this case, if a collision occurred at a lower speed, say 1, 2, anywhere from 0 to 5 miles an hour, would that create the damage to the taillights that you observed in this particular case?
At that speed, no.
Okay, so that was a little flashback Friday clip. Adam Lally on cross, and he was crossing him about that little, as Roberta Glass, friend of the show, calls it a love tap, when Karen Reed backs up her SUV into John O'Keefe's SUV, and Dr. Wolf acknowledges that that wouldn't have caused the taillight to break. Joe Tamburino, tell me, is the juice worth the squeeze in calling these ARCCA experts in round 2, knowing what we know now about the deception, but also weighing that against how good they were in round 1?
I think you still have to call them, because they were good in round 1, and you're going to have to try to diffuse the situation about the cover-up. Now, I don't know how Mr. Jackson's going to actually do that, but he's a very well-prepared attorney, so I would imagine he's got some plan. So yes, if you balance it out, what they give the defense in terms of physical evidence, what could actually have happened, everything about the taillight, yes, that weighs more, has greater weight than the cover-up, because that you're just going to have to tear the Band-Aid off, admit to the jury that something happened, but it doesn't affect these experts' opinions.
Appreciate it. A great discussion with you both. We'll leave it there for now. Joe and David, stand by kindly, please. Coming up next for you here on Opening Statements.
And I looked and I saw your client looking at the jury and nodding vigorously during that line of question. That is absolutely unacceptable. Is it going to happen again, Mr. Agnifilo?
It's not going to happen again, Judge.
The judge threatens to remove Diddy from the courtroom. We're talking about the music mogul's behavior and whether it was meant to manipulate the jury. That's next. Plus, jury deliberations resume today in the deadly date murder trial. We're breaking down the behavior of defendant Maxwell Anderson.
Karen Reed is in the midst of the retrial of the century.
She is factually innocent. She's guilty.
There's something wrong in this county.
Come at me.
John O'Keefe was killed by that defendant, Karen Reed.
She's the victim of a corrupted investigation that was never about the truth.
Another big day here at the Dedham Courthouse.
Fight on. Nothing's breaking me, Nat.
You'll see it all unfold right here on Court TV.
The Karen Reed murder retrial. Live coverage today on Court TV.
The indictment alleges that Combs abused and exploited women and other people for years, and in a variety of ways.
How are you all feeling right now? Anything you want to say?
As alleged, Combs used force, threats of force, and coercion to cause victims to engage in extended sexual performances with male commercial sex workers.
He believes he's innocent. I believe he's innocent. And we're going to fight this case with all of our might until we don't have to fight. We won't.
As John Diddy Combs' attorneys continue fighting for him, the music mogul's behavior in the courtroom is catching the attention of the judge and folks in the true crime community. So after the jury left for lunch on Thursday, the judge warned Diddy and his defense team that Combs could be removed from the courtroom if he continues interacting with the jury. Using the court transcript and coupling it with AI voice technology, let's take you into the courtroom for that moment.
I was very clear this morning that there were not to be any facial expressions, other attempts to have any interaction with the jury whatsoever, any influence on the jury whatsoever. And I could not have been clearer in terms of what I said. You heard me, right?
I did.
Well, there was a line of questioning where your client was nodding vigorously and looking at the jury. And there was a subsequent moment, we had a sidebar, and I looked and I saw your client looking at the jury and nodding vigorously during that line of questioning. That is absolutely unacceptable. Is it going to happen again, Mr. Agnifilo?
It's not going to happen again, Judge.
It cannot happen again. If it happens again, if it happens even once, I will hear an application from the government to give a curative instruction to the jury, which you do not want. Or I will consider taking further measures which could result in the exclusion of your client from the courtroom. Do you understand that?
I understand, Judge.
Oh boy. So this morning we're asking our power panel, how likely or not is it that Diddy is trying to manipulate the jury? Let's bring back in criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor David Bruno and welcome in media personality and artist in his own right, Headcrack. Good morning to you both. Headcrack, let me start with you, please. What do you think? Could Diddy be trying to manipulate the jury?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, in a court case, when, you know, you having all these terrible, salacious things said about you, you want to try to make eye contact and try to show a different side or try to either manipulate or intimidate. It just depends on what you feel like works best in your favor in that scenario. Is he trying to charm him? Is he like trying to nod and be like, yes, this is the answer, and I'm trying to like, not necessarily telegraph this to you, but there's so many different physical techniques people can do to manipulate and sway people's energy or attention, and this could have been a tactic there.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it could be, Diddy, he's a smart guy. He's a performer, as we know. David Bruno, what'd you think when you heard about this admonition from His Honor?
Oh, yeah, look, a zebra can't change his stripes either. And that man is sitting in the chair. I mean, he has been on the top of the industry. He has gotten what he's wanted through his whole entire life. And now he's sitting in a chair with the possibility of prison. We talked about this in the Karen Reed case, too. And it's a frequent conversation about the presence of the defendant at trial, sitting in the chair, and always being perceived by the court, the jury. It is critical that they always put their best foot forward. Now, I do have a little problem with the instruction because he has a right to be there and he has a right to kind of show his emotion there. I think the problem is the connection with the jury. I mean, would it have been different if his eyes were away from the jury? Because they have to be able to show some emotion there, but at the same time, they have to be careful. So it's a constant conversation with being in the courtroom because they have a right to be in the courtroom. And I think it'd be a mistake to either give that curative instruction or remove him, which could be an issue on appeal, which nobody wants to deal with on appeal or a reversal.
David, that's an excellent legal point. Thank you for that. Yeah, I feel like there's a fine line between making eye contact and being engaged or trying to, connect just as a human being versus trying to do a stare down or, make eyes at somebody and nod your head and, try to make a message sent to them with body language. Head Craig, what do you think? Do you think that, perhaps Diddy's just animated?
I think it's a little bit of everything. I think, you can use body language to, convey whatever message you want to convey. When I think of a great situation where somebody you looked at somebody and gave them the nod, think of Pat Morita at the end of the first Karate Kid at the end of the tournament. And when Daniel looked at him, he just gave him that nod.
Yes, that's a great example.
Or if somebody looks at somebody and they disapprove of somebody, there's so many ways you could say a lot without doing anything or even communicate with your eyes. And I think, Diddy is a master persuader and manipulator on all levels. And you want to use every tool in your box to try to get the result you want.
Right. Yeah, you're so right, Head Crack. Great examples, too. I love it. Okay, let's turn to another aspect of this case now. So you both know that alleged victim Jane took the stand on Thursday. She returns this morning. Her testimony still on direct, so still with the government questioning. And apparently she was in this secret relationship with Diddy, dating all the way back to 2021, up until his arrest. Who knew, right? Okay, so she told the jury about being brought into Diddy's freak-off fantasy. She said that she caved in, to the freak-offs because it seemed like Diddy wanted that, and it was turning him on, she said. She testified that Combs took her to a Miami hotel in May of 2021, watched as she had sex with a paid sex worker named Dawn, who Combs had hired. When asked if she wanted to have sex with other men, Jane softly said no, just Sean, and explained that what she desired was an old-fashioned type of relationship, just me and him. What, no freak-offs? Just kidding. All right, so Jane will soon be facing some very intense questioning from Diddy's defense team, likely on her receiving financial support. So the whole other thing is what she was getting, right? The other side to this. Brianna Bongolin, Cassie's friend, the stylist who styled for both Cassie and Diddy, the one allegedly dangled over the balcony by Diddy, she endured a really tough cross from the defense team. They got her tripped up on the date. They have receipts that Diddy wasn't even there in Los Angeles on the date that she and Cassie say this happens. He was in New York City, according to the defense. Let's take a listen to some of the AI technology married to the transcript.
But isn't it true that before you filed your suit, you and Cassie spoke right there at the end of the year? That's where I am, okay? Yes?
Yes.
And you guys talked about this balcony story, true?
Yes.
Cassie was saying hotel. You were saying your apartment has a balcony, true?
I didn't say it like that.
Okay. Cassie said hotel. You said apartment?
Yes.
And Cassie's apartment had a balcony, true?
Yes.
And you and Cassie were discussing potential dates, true?
Yes. But just the way you say it.
Okay, David Bruno, that was a really good cross, as you know, got her tripped up. What does that do to the case overall? Is the defense team destroying some of the credibility of alleged victims?
Look, they're doing a good job when they have their opportunities. But the big problem for Diddy is the number of victims, the evidence at the search warrant, and the video with Cassie. And the video of Cassie is the nucleus of this government case, because a lot of what we're hearing with Mia and Jane and all these other witnesses is really almost not believable. It's almost like it's coming from a fiction novel, right? We talk about these freak-offs. She was saying 24 to 30 hours without rest. 90% of the freak-offs involved other men, right? And on this particular witness, Jane, she's going to have to really deal with the payments. And the payments go both ways for the defense. I mean, obviously the payments and the cross-examination on consent is going to be one thing, but the government's also going to use the payments and the threats to withhold the payments as that commercial act allegation, because there has to be something held back or of value for the commercial act. And then you throw on the force, the coercion, which is the element that's required in addition to the commercial act. So the money goes both ways, because it also gets the government to the allegation that he was threatening to hold back the money for the commercial act.
Right, right. A great analysis, David. Headcrack, I would love to ask you about Jane and how, when we look at the timeline, she was with Diddy when everything came out about the Cassie video, when America was stunned, when the lawsuits started being filed, stayed with him up until his arrest. I have to wonder, is this woman wanting to be here in this trial? I have to kind of wonder what changed. Do we know anything about Jane? Has anything ever come up about this secret girlfriend of Diddy's?
Well, the rumor is, and maybe we'll get a little bit more insight on this today, that Jane is the baby mother of a popular rapper who rose to prominence in the early 2000s who doesn't like Diddy very much. So her being on the low about this relationship was in her best interest, and this is a situation where somebody probably needed to be financially taken care of and would be willing to endure a little bit more than the average person would endure to make sure she maintained a certain lifestyle. So, you know, sometimes, you know, you'll endure and deal with more than you would normally deal with based on your financial needs at the time, and I think that's why she thugged it out the way she did. And even when the heat was on with all these allegations and all this other stuff.
Boy, that's a great point, Headcrack. And you got me thinking, too. You know, she's talking about wanting monogamy. I mean, by this point in time, 2021, when she started dating him, wouldn't you know he's not exactly that guy, right? I mean, isn't it pretty well known that Diddy likes his ladies, you know? I mean, I don't know if he's the place you go when you want this, you know, committed monogamous relationship. So maybe to your point, it's about the finances. Go ahead, please.
I think the first few weeks in a relationship, people are always going to send their best version of themselves, the representative, show you the best time, wooing you in, and next thing you know, you in a honey trap.
Headcrack, you're absolutely right. A really good point. We love having you on this show. Thank you so much. Check out Headcrack's album, Microdose. It's awesome. We'll see you soon and talk more about. There it is.
For people who like old school media as well.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so cool. Our courties do. Hey, thanks, Headcrack. And thanks to David Bruno. You got to get off to court. Go win some cases. We'll see you next Friday. Thank you, David. Still to come here on Opening Statements. We are spotlighting a beautiful victim in Wisconsin, Sade Robinson. We're going to show you the last moments that she was alive. It's on surveillance video, and the jury saw it as we get ready to go on the verdict.
Now, Sade sits down by the slot machines, and Mr. Anderson sits down right next to her, and they are talking.
We're spotlighting and being a voice for victims for this beautiful young lady as we get ready to continue on the Verdict Watch. Plus, we're breaking down Cult Mom's opening statement in her second trial in Arizona.
Conspiracy is an ancient word that appears in the Bible on many occasions. Judas conspired against Jesus with the chief priests for 30 pieces of silver.
Object to, unless this is being presented at trial, I'm not sure that this is appropriate opening.
Every single lead, every single thing the investigators did led back to Maxwell Anderson, and it is because Maxwell Anderson is the killer. He is responsible, so find him guilty.
Did you hear that applause from the gallery? That was after the state's closing argument in the deadly date murder trial in Wisconsin. Jury deliberations are going to resume a little later this morning. Maxwell Anderson is the accused. Prosecutors say he killed and dismembered this beautiful young lady, Sade Robinson. She was 19 years old. And this morning, we're giving a voice to her, the victim in this case. Friends have said that Sade was excited for her date with the defendant. It was in April of last year, and you can see on this video the pair going to sit down there. They're on surveillance video. She's got the white top and the jeans on, and look, they're playing a game with some friends there. Only hours later, her life was taken in the most brutal way. We've put together some of the highlights of the trial. Here we go.
The evidence in this case is going to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Maxwell Anderson intentionally killed Sade Robinson and then sought to have her disappear from this world. He cut up her body, tried to get rid of her body parts, and tried to cover it up in any way that he could.
And the state knows that there are serious holes in their case. They know it. They know that there's reasonable doubt, and that's why they're coming at you with this phrase, like common sense. But one thing you'll see throughout this is that we don't dispute any of that timeline, that they went out together and went back to Max's house, but that doesn't mean he killed her.
9 o'clock and 53 seconds on the timestamp. What's happening now?
The game is over or about to be over, and eventually you're going to see them shaking hands. They're eventually going to hug, and Sade and Mr. Anderson are going to leave.
How many knives were found? A total of 51 just from the kitchen. Just from the kitchen? Were there knives elsewhere? There were. We took it out just to show the size of the blade and show the knife.
While I was walking down there before that, Mr. Millies told me that the leg was actually located on the side of the cliff, or the side of the embankment, about 10 to 15 feet up. So as we were walking north on the beach, that's where I was initially looking. What I believe to be a black female, a leg from either a late teenager or younger black female. The leg was short and had pink nail polish on the toenails.
Let's bring in now criminology expert, author, and professor at St. Thomas University, Dr. Debbie Goodman. Good morning, Dr. Debbie. Nice to see you as always. If you would please, we want you to help us get into the mind of this guy. This is a case that's hard to talk about. This is a tough job for those jurors, as you know, seeing such gruesome evidence. What might have been going on with Maxwell Anderson at the time if he did what the state of Wisconsin says he did?
Good morning, Julie, and of course my condolences to the Robinson family. Just such a tragic, terrible crime. And as we look at him, Julie, the defendant, I think we also align him and the behavior with the three crimes, because the one case has the murder, dismemberment, as well as arson. And so I would classify this as a lust murder. And what that really means is, for the individual who is the killer, there is some type of sexual pleasure, sexual motivation. Now, that doesn't always mean sexual violation and victimization. So believe it or not, Julie, in our textbooks and in real life, we have these individuals who kill, and they get the sexual pleasure out of the killing itself. And now we move to the second crime of dismemberment. What killers do and why when they participate in dismemberment. And even though understandably so for the viewers and the case watchers, some may think, well, clearly an individual who would dismember, such as also, by the way, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Jeffrey Dahmer, these people must be insane. But I don't see it that way at all. I see it as they are making a very clear, controlling and conscientious decision to get rid of the evidence. And then, of course, the tertiary crime of arson, same thing. When we see fire, what does that do to evidence? It destroys it. It is now becoming almost undetectable, unreadable, and killers know and understand this. So I think this is a lust murder, and I think it is Maxwell Anderson who did this.
Wow, Dr. Debbie, brilliant analysis as always. This is helpful for us when we think about why in the world would someone do this? How could someone do this? I have a clip for you. This is where a woman named Chloe Wright gave testimony in this case. She used to date Maxwell Anderson, and she talks about a secret beach where he would take her And this becomes important because we know that one of Sade Robinson's body parts was later discovered at this same beach. Take a listen.
Was there any particular place that the defendant shared with you that was unique or special?
He wanted to show me this like secret beach that he described it as, just being like a really private area to hang out.
Dr. Debbie, how significant is it in your view, this man allegedly disposing of Sade Robinson's body part at this location?
Very significant, Julie. Why? Because even among killers, they too will participate in routine conduct. You know, let's say for all of us and the viewers, we have our routine day-to-day of interacting with our spouses, our children. Many go to work, and then, you know, the friendships and the interaction. But same thing, Julie, for these killers. You know, with many of our conversations, I've said before, and I'll say it this morning, that there's simply no coincidence when it comes to murder. We have significant evidence now. We have a body part and potentially plural body parts that are still remaining that are at a place and location where an individual who knows this suspect has said that this was an area of interest for him. So I think it's very important.
Right. Dr. Debbie, you're so compassionate with victims, and I know your heart breaks like our hearts do here for this family and for this young lady who had her whole life ahead of her. When we think about what it was like to be in her shoes, I would love to hear it from you as an expert in this. When you're dealing with somebody who may want to do you harm, in this case, if Maxwell Anderson did these horrible things, there's no way to detect that, right? You know, when you're someone like who's just looking for, you know, a fun night, maybe this is a nice guy, maybe it'll go somewhere, maybe a relationship will blossom from it. Would you kind of speak to that, how tough it is to detect people, and I'll use Jeffrey Dahmer as the example, people like that in our society?
Absolutely, Julie, you're 100% correct. And here's why. Because when we interact with people, we interact with them from the standpoint of how we are. You see, we're good people, so we interact with others in that type of way. And we can only imagine the bright light of Miss Robinson and how kind and gracious and lovely she is. So she probably would not have thought anything was wrong. But I would submit at some point in these types of just savage slaughters that there is a tipping point. There is a moment in time where a victim may feel ill at ease, discomfort, some type of irregularity. And unfortunately, that may be the point in time where it really is too late, but that the killer has decided to proceed with the goal of killing.
Oh my gosh, just awful. And Dr. Debbie, as she was studying criminal justice, you know, perhaps she wanted to be like you someday. Oh, she had an interest in this. It's so heartbreaking. Thank you for helping us remember Sade Robinson this morning and for all the helpful insight into the trial. Dr. Debbie Goodman, we'll look forward to seeing you back here very soon. Thank you. And as we go to break, we want to continue remembering Sade Robinson, a beautiful 19-year-old young lady who loved the color pink. Some of us wore pink today. As we continue remembering her, she had so much more to live for. As we just mentioned, she was interested in criminal justice. That's what she started going to school for. She was a hard worker. She was working 2 jobs. She was a beloved daughter and sister and friend. And as the jury returns today to deliberate, we hope that she will get justice. We'll be right back.
Daybell, doomsday cult mom, convicted killer, and now defendant in yet another high-profile trial.
She didn't really care who she hurt.
This time for the attempted murder of a former family member.
Just makes you sad.
And again, she's representing herself.
What about the same problem?
Are you done? Or are you just going to keep...
Will this be the final chapter in the saga
of the doomsday cult mom?
The Cult Mom Conspiracy Trial. Live coverage continues Monday morning only on Court TV.
Now for what's tipping the scales of justice, Lori Daybell coming face to face with a man she's accused of trying to kill. Lori Vallow Daybell, representing herself, expected to cross-examine her former nephew, Brandon Boudreaux, today. He's the ex-husband of her niece, Melanie Boudreaux. In Cult Mom's opening statement Thursday, she cited Cain and Abel, but not before some objections from the state.
Conspiracy is an ancient word that appears in the Bible on many occasions. Judas conspired against Jesus with the chief priests for 30 pieces of silver.
Object to, unless this is being presented at trial, I'm not sure that this is appropriate opening.
What is the legal objection?
You're arguing. The opening statement is not argument. I'm going to allow it briefly, but I may cut you off depending on where you're going with that.
Cain conspired against Abel, his brother. This case is a case of conspiracy. The charge against me is that I conspired with my brother, Alex Cox, to murder my niece's husband, Brandon Boudreaux.
Conspiracy's in the Bible, she says. How about it? Let's bring in criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Joe Tamburino, see what he thinks. All right, Joe, that open, all the references to conspiracy in the Bible, I may be the cheese that stands alone. I don't know. I wanted to hear more. I would have let her go. What do you think?
Yeah, I know. You could let her go because the jury was probably like, where is she going with this? But Ms. Daybell has enough legal information to make her dangerous to herself. I mean, she's been through so many legal proceedings. She has some of the jargon down. Like, notice she's always saying, you will hear, because she's getting that from other attorneys in their opening statements. So she's got enough legal information to make herself dangerous. But she has opened the door to so many things, saying she's a loving person. I mean, she's been convicted of murder. So, it's just ridiculous. But I agree with you. I think if you would have let her rant on, it would have been entertaining.
Right. Yeah, Joe, I was kind of upset the prosecutor objected. I gotta be honest. Prosecutor's open was excellent. They've got this case. At this point, I think Cult Mom's just having some fun. I think she looks at it like a field trip out of the jail, into the courtroom.
Yes.
What do you think?
Absolutely. I mean, I've been doing this job for 36 years, and I can tell you that there are a lot of people in prison who like to make court appearances. Why? Because they get out of prison. I mean, prison is monotonous. You do the same thing every day. Of course, no one wants to be there. So you get to go to court. You get to leave your prison cell. You're in a courtroom. You get to wear regular clothes. You're right. It's like a field trip.
Yeah, she seems to be enjoying the attention, all of it. That's why we were all kind of scratching our heads when she didn't want the trial to move forward. She was saying she was sick. We're like, well, that's not like her to not want to come to court. She must have really been under the weather, I suppose. Joe, today, when it's time for the cross, this should get interesting, right? Because we have a live victim, thank God, a live victim in this one, unlike the other cases, as you know.
I know. This one's going to be really good. And of course, the whole thing is, her theory is, well, we don't even know if there's a shooting because everything's up to this victim. So we'll see how that's going to go. But, in these kind of situations, when you have a pro se defendant, meaning a defendant that's representing herself or himself, it's one of those rare occasions where you could get, the defendant, the person who is accused of doing the criminal act, actually confronting the person who's the victim. I mean, I remember one of the first times I've ever seen that was decades ago, and I don't know if you remember this, the Long Island Commuter Railroad shooter in New York. He went on a rampage and he represented himself.
Oh, wow. Wow. Joe, thank you for that. Should get interesting this afternoon, right around 1 p.m. Eastern. Things will resume. Joe Tamburino, we're so glad you're able to come with us for our next hour. It is time for some Court TV Live next. We're going to Massachusetts together. Don't go away.